very great pleasure indeed today to welcome you all to a celebration of the life and work of Ved Prakash Batuk, poet, folklorist and activist. A man whom Professor Berryman here once called a multicultural Renaissance man.
And this verse came to my mind and immediately jotted down. It says here, Ho nrupa ho, hameka hani, cheri chadi aba ho akirami. Shall I become king? No matter who becomes king, I am going to remain what I am. With these wonderful memories of my very, very dear friend Batuk, I declare this book open and dedicate this to you all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
The title of the essay is A Poet's Justice. Dr. Batuk, the author of over 30 internationally recognized volumes of poetry, as well as hundreds of political essays and academic articles, has developed an influential body of work that is intimately grounded in his lifelong quest for social justice. Dr. Batuk's early work in folklore and linguistics, for instance, focuses not upon the elites who govern, but on the men and women who lead lives that are extraordinary only in their ordinariness. The tired sugarcane workers of western Uttar Pradesh who survive 24-hour shifts at the presses by singing a special type of work song. The highly skilled yet overlooked performers of local folk operas in eastern Meerut. The poor women of a North Indian village who secure their futures by secretly stashing goods with a Brahmin neighbor. Dr. Batuk's goal is in large part to bring the collective voices of these ordinary actors into scholarship, their songs, their dramas, their conversations. His work thus focuses on the disenfranchised who counter injustice with whatever tools they may have for expressing dissent. And what all people have, even the poorest of the poor, is a voice. Dr. Batuk's attraction to the idea of equality was evident as early as the 5th grade, when he renounced his caste surname and took on his pen name. Batuk's passion for the revolutionary potential of ordinary citizenship originated in a childhood infused with anti-colonialist energy and unrest. The youngest of 13 children, Batuk was born on the 13th of April, 1932, 15 years before India won its independence. Although his home village was far removed from the bustle of its closest neighboring city, Meerut, the struggle for independence infected the lives of even the most isolated, fostering the development of diverse grassroots sentiments that permeated everyday life. Batuk began writing folk lyrics on freedom and revolution at only 10 years of age. It's with a similar ferocity of spirit that a much older Batuk composed a series of political poems for his brother during the emergency, later published in 1977 under the title Kaidi Bhai Bandi Desh, Jailed Brother and Prison Nation. Sundar Lal, Batuk's brother, was one of the 376 activists who were imprisoned on the first day of the emergency, shortly after the government had essentially suspended all elections and civil liberties under Article 352 of the Constitution. Batuk sent these poems to his brother over the course of the next 18 months, providing him comfort as he sat in solitary confinement in the Varanasi cell, and according to some accounts, even winning the admiration of the jailer and jail censor through his verse. Earning an advanced degree in Hindi literature from Punjab University in 1953, and an MA in Sanskrit from Agra University in 1954, Batuk, lacking the usual elite connections, found himself without a job. Inspired by the traveling scholar Sanskrit Gyan's book, Science of Wandering, he borrowed a bicycle from a friend. He rode 50 miles a day to collect money for a world adventure. Although before this time he had hardly even traveled through India, it was only a matter of months before Batuk boarded a Polish ship headed for Britain. He arrived in London 18 days later with £half a pound in his pocket, eager to take work wherever he could find it, grocery stores, offices, restaurants, factories. And it was here that he first breathed in a hefty dose of Western-style racism, even at London University's School of Oriental and African Studies, where he began to work on his PhD dissertation. The realities of British daily life compelled Batuk to rethink his previous imaginings of both home and abroad, launching his interest in a broader interrogation of structural inequality that considers systems of race as well as those of caste and class. It was during graduate school at Harvard University and his subsequent years at the University of California, Berkeley, that Batuk became increasingly attracted to folklore, a field that shared his discomfort with many of the elitist assumptions that guide academic scholarship. Indeed, the field of folklore had emerged in large part through the rejection of academia's preoccupation with so-called high forms of literature and poetry, a perspective that informs Batuk's investigations of both non-standard Hindi dialects and localized performance genres. For instance, his exposition of the metrical complexity of Hindi folk riddles as rivaling what is found in classical Sanskrit. This is an article he co-authored with Alan Dundes. Or quite simply in his decision to analyze the riddles of a 13th century writer like Amir Khusro, whose work had been overlooked by academics because it is written in, quote, the language of the layman. Poetry is not usually the first medium that comes to mind when one thinks of the articulation of sustained critique against war. But for Dr. Batuk, nothing is more suited to a portrayal of war's atrocities than a poem. He came to this view early on when listening to the protest songs of the Bajnopdeshaks as a child. But his anti-war artistry reached new heights after his adult initiation into the lyrics of American folk singers like Pete Seeger. His first book of poetry in English, Silence is Not Golden, published in 1969, both promoted civil rights and condemned the Vietnam War, reflecting inspiration from a variety of American protest movements. Of Dr. Ved Prakash Batuk that I have outlined in this introduction, his belief in the power of protest poetry, his skepticism regarding the empty rhetoric of political leaders and the corruptive potential of religious sects, his drive to reframe history from the standpoint of the folk, his opposition to violence, war, and imperialism, all come together in his recent publications on the Ghadar Party, an early 20th century freedom movement. Associated primarily with South Asian Americans in California, the movement seeded a diasporic uprising against British rule in India. Spearheaded by Indian immigrants and university students, its professed goal was to liberate India from British servitude using whatever means possible. As part of their mission to involve the Indian diaspora in the fight for independence, a group of San Franciscans published a number of political booklets between 1915 and 1918, distributing them to Indians everywhere free of charge. Dr. Batuk began writing about the movement as early as 1966, when he co-authored an article for the journal Folklore that stands as the first scholarly examination of the Ghadar Party protest songs. It makes good sense that Dr. Batuk, folklorist, Bay Area resident, and author of over 30 internationally recognized volumes of political poetry, would be attracted to a San Francisco group that published folk poems written in revolutionary style for Indians living abroad. Dr. Batuk has since made it his life's work to research and publish the histories of several of California's Ghadar Party activists. Many of their stories have appeared in The Ghaddarite, a quarterly publication founded by Batuk in 1998 that is dedicated to the ideas and actions of the movement. In the most profound of senses, then, Dr. Batuk is himself a modern-day Ghadar hero, continuing the fight against social inequity through a shrewd use of pen and paper. Imagine that the readers of this edited collection will be involved in their own revolutionary activities across the world, both quiet and loud, and I hope that all will join us today in celebrating the life and work of this extraordinary man.